get nagging injuries every now and then. Ray Allen has a bulky ankle. They come into the second half of the season. Any one of those guys get hurt, and all of a sudden the Celtics are not as dominant as everyone thinks they are. They have to be real lucky to, number one, like I said, to attain the chemistry necessary to be a championship team, because they don't have the bench at all. You look at teams that are really championship contenders, they are deep teams and they have chemistry, they've been together for a minute. The Celtics have none of that, so they're going to have to be lucky in chemistry, they're going to have to be lucky in injury, and they're going to have to go into the playoffs and face a bunch of teams that are hungry and have played together. So you look at the Celtics and their big three. Second half of the season, I see them wearing down a little bit because of that weak bench. There's a couple guys out there who might be joining them. Javon Howard just got bought out. You're wondering if the Celtics can sign him, but they don't have much money to spare. I don't know if that's going to happen. But Antoine Walker might be out there. They may buy out his contract and send him out there. But I don't really. If they don't pick up a few guys, I'd say at least a couple guys for that bench. If they have any injuries, they're going to have a poor record. But let's go into that big three for a minute. Let's look at their big three. I look at the Miami Heat. Dwayne Wade, Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal claims that he's going to come out and he's going to carry his team until Wade gets back, and he's ready to have a big season, and he wants to go for another championship run. Pat Riley is obviously going for broke this year. If Shaq can be anywhere near healthy this year and play maybe 65, 70 games, and be a factor, be in shape and be a factor, along with the great Dwayne Wade and along with the very underrated offensive Ricky Davis, they may not have the stature of the Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, but that is a nasty three-part component to your team that can score with anyone and dominate anyone offensively. So here's a team that has their own little big three that can match, at least offensively, what KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen can do, even if they don't have individually the reputation across the board that Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and KG does. KG, to me, is one of the best players to ever play this game. Shaquille O'Neal's not in his prime right now, but he can still dominate. In a poor season, Shaquille O'Neal still averaged 18 points and 7 rebounds. It's not tremendous, but he had a poor year. If you're getting that from a center who can do better, if you can get a little bit more than that from Shaquille O'Neal, then you have a dominant force in the paint. You have a dominant perimeter player in Ray Allen. Ricky Davis. He may not have the reputation that Ray Allen does. He may not be the unselfish player or have the unselfish reputation that Ray Allen does, but he is a dominant offensive player. He's not a guy who can put 40 points on you every single night, but he's a guy you better guard, and we all know who Dwayne Wade is. So, when you say a big three, I look at the Miami Heat, and they got a little big three themselves. And then you look at the New Jersey Nets. They got three guys that everybody wants to forget about. RJ was hurt last year, and he came back and then played hurt. So he wasn't nearly the player that he had shown himself to be in the past. But RJ is a guy who has improved every year, and if it wasn't for Vince Carter, he would be a primary offensive threat on the Nets, and maybe could be a primary offensive threat on another team if they make a deal. People are just bored with their big three, but that doesn't make them any less effective. Jason Kidd is one of the best basketball players on the planet. And you can say, as great as Kevin Garnett is as a forward, Jason Kidd is as a point guard, because Jason Kidd can control the game in so many different ways. You can say that he's even more dominant on the court. If you really watch Jason Kidd play night in, night out, you can see how dominant this guy can be. So to have Jason Kidd and Vince Carter, people take a lot of things away from Vince Carter. Vince Carter can shoot it from the outside, he can drive it, he can post it, he is an NBA scorer through and through. He's a very tough guard, he gets to the free throw line, he makes his free throws, he can rebound, he can pass. And then you talk about RJ. His jump shot has improved every year. He can rebound a little bit. He's long. He can play some defense. He bothers people's shots. He runs the floor. Don't leave him open. He can create a shot a little bit, not the same way Vince Carter can. They have their own little big three. May not have just the lofty reputation of Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett. They may not generate the excitement that Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and Kevin Garnett do. But that is a big three right there. That is a team that Jason Kidd is not going to put 20 points a game, but the way he controls the game is going to be a factor. There's just two teams of the top 7 in the Eastern Conference that, to me, can match what Boston is doing offensively and what they're going to be doing offensively with their big three. Even if they're a level below them or half a level below them, that is a lot to throw at a team. And then you talk about the Nets are a better all-around team. A better bench, and we're going to the Nets later. a better bench. They have they have better chemistry. They've been playing together for a while. And you look at the Miami Heat, their chemistry is yet to be seen with a new ingredient like Ricky Davis. Their bench is not as strong as the Nets, but it's stronger than the Celtics. So if Shaquille O'Neal is healthy at all, here's a team that just in terms of all-stars can throw 3 all-stars out there at you. And Ricky Davis hasn't been an all-star team, but he has all-star numbers. So, these guys can definitely face the Celtics, to me, man for man, in terms of scoring prowess. And that's not all an NBA game is about. They bring a lot of other things to the table that the Celtics are not going to be able to bring. So I think the Celtics are in trouble. In their own division, they have 2 other teams that are going to be competing with them to win that division title. And then when it gets to the playoffs, we're talking about the top 7 teams in the Eastern Conference, I believe, are just as capable of beating them as they are those teams. And if you look at the Chicago Bulls up front defensively, they can give KG a lot of trouble. You're talking about guys like Tyrese Thomas, Joakim Noah, Ben Wallace, Joe Smith. These are guys that, if Kevin Garnett had his way, he can dominate. You can give him the ball every single time. But Kevin Garnett is not an aggressive player in the post. So here's a guy that these guys are going to bother him enough when he decides to go to the basket, decides to be a scorer. They're going to bother him enough to make life difficult for him. They can match him athletic-wise. They're not as coordinated. None of those guys are as coordinated as Kevin Garnett is. But they are good enough athletically to give Kevin Garnett trouble up front. And then on the perimeter, that's all the Bulls have are perimeter defenders. Aside from Ben Gordon, they can put Ben Gordon on the bench if need be and throw defenders out there to give Ray Allen and Paul Pierce all kinds of fits. And then they're also a better team with better chemistry and they'll play together for a while. I don't see the Celtics running through everybody. I really don't. I don't think people are really looking at it as deeply as they should. The Celtics have some holes that they need to fill on that bench. They're going to wear down in the regular season. They're going to have to work a lot harder than people think in the Eastern Conference. And if their seeding is too low in the Eastern Conference, they're going to end up facing, if you're not the 1 seed in the East, you're going to face a good team. If you're not the 1 seed, you're going to face a good team. Now, if one of the top 7 happen to fall to the 8, even at 1 you might run into some trouble and someone else might get lucky. But, 1-8 should be a pretty huge difference. But everything else, you're talking about Miami Heat, the Cavaliers, the Chicago Bulls, Detroit Pistons. These are guys that are going to be playing each other in the first round of the playoffs. If you're not the first seed, and I don't think the Celtics are going to be the first seed, and they're going to have a tough time getting through to the Eastern Conference Finals and to the finals in general with that short bench and with teams that can defend them and have played better, played longer together and played better longer. So all this to be said, the Eastern Conference, we're going to break them down team by team. But we're starting off with the Boston Celtics, and I think the Boston Celtics are overrated. They're going to be, have one of the top records, but they're not going to have the top record. They're going to be in the top 3, and they're not going to be the dominant force in the playoffs everyone thinks they're going to be, and good for them. They made some good moves, but they're not done yet. Maybe next year, Ainge makes a couple more moves, and then they'll be the dominant force. But this year is not your year, Celtics fans. Sorry.